Hey everyone, it's Twist65 and today is part 2 of our tunnel liner project. Before we can install the tunnel liner that we made in part 1 of this video series, we need to take care of the track itself. The tunnel is going to go on the left side of the layout and it's going to be on a curving incline. And while this section of track will be inside the mountain and then exiting to the back, passing and holding trackage, I still want to have the track weathered and reballasted. So after marking the location of where the liner is going to sit, see the masking tape on the risers, I start the process by painting all of the track and Kato plastic beds with a burnt umber acrylic paint. It doesn't have to be any special grade of acrylic paint. I had artist paint on hand. The key is that it's acrylic. This will give us a rusty brown color to the ties, and it dries relatively quickly and it's easy to clean up with water. After the paint dries, you need to run a wooden block with some cloth on it all around the track to take the top layer of paint off of the trackage. This will allow the electricity to keep flowing to the DC motors of the train engine. After painting, it's time for a reliability run. As you can see, the engine is having trouble. A quick inspection shows some misalignment of the tracks where the sections were joined together. My guess is that a couple of the joints moved while the caulk was drying. It's really not a problem. I just used a microfine metal file and a couple of passes on the track sections, got them back to the same height. And now the engine runs smoothly. You just need to remember to come back with a vacuum to remove all the metal filings so you don't screw up your motor. Next up is to lay some ballast. I like to start with a layer of PVA glue straight from the bottle. And I run the glue right along both sides of the Kato roadbed. So while the glue is still tacky, I pour a liberal amount of mixed black and gray fine ballast all over the glue. Again, up both sides. This will build up a nice foundation layer. I then come back with a large flat brush to shape the ballast and to gently coax it into all the places I want it to be. Once you're happy with the look, let the PVA base coat dry for 10 to 15 minutes. You can then come back in with a light misting of a 70% or higher isopropyl alcohol, which will break up the surface tension and allow the 50-50 mix of PVA and water to soak completely through all the ballast. Installing the tunnel liner is accomplished with hot melt glue. I added spots of the glue along the sides to help keep the liner in place and not have it shift around to build a mountain around it. I started building the mountain over the tunnel liner by gluing strips of cardboard to the back side of each tunnel arch. I also took some time and added masking tape on top of the track and on the ballast on both ends of the tunnel. This will help keep everything clean and tidy during the next steps. You can also see I added some foam to the left side to give the illusion of the mountain or the ridge running off the layout. The mountain scene is a continuation of a scenic break in the form of a ridge, so stay tuned for an upcoming build on that ridge in the near future. The tunnel portal and retaining walls are plaster castings from Woodland Scenics, and they are roughly set in place to help form the plaster cloth in a rough position for attachment of the finished parts later on in the build. In building the ridge, I used a very similar technique here to add rigidity and the final form. Namely, I used a lot of plaster cloth to accomplish this task. As you can see, it involves water and plaster and is very messy and the major reason for the masking tape. After a couple days of letting the plaster cure, I came back in with Sculpt-A-Mold. I started the process at the tunnel entrance, and then I worked my way back to the rest of the finished ridge. Groundwork needs to tie into additional work yet to be started, but is the layout ever really truly done? All the plaster work needs time to dry, and since it's Sunday evening as I film this, I think giving it a week would be a good time frame. At this point, this is how the tunnel will look in all white and unpainted. Stay tuned for part 3 as we check that trains will still run problem-free and start the finishing of the scenic work on the plaster mountains. If you found this video to be helpful or just enjoyed my journey in building an N-scale model railroad, please consider a like and subscribe. It really does help the algorithm.